come from a place of teaching the concepts of the Gita or the Vedanta.
Because the Gita is not just one particular book. The Gita actually is an intense commitment towards the truth and nothing but the truth. They keep the Bhagavad Gita at some holy place in the house and they worship it daily without ever caring to really read it. A lot of superstition has been peddled in the name of Bhagavad Gita as well. And that's why a lot of sharp people, intellectual people, honest people, they shirk away the moment they hear a religious term. You must understand that.
Yeah, I was one of them previously.
Yes, and they have a point. They are right. The Gita is not the names of the various chapters. The Gita is not the various verses memorized. Real philosophy is so logical, it questions logic itself.
Yeah.
That's what the Gita is.
Would you name some scholars to whom you would have looked up to when you were getting acquainted with these texts? I mean, if it's possible.
I would look at anything said by anybody. It widened my perspective.
Yeah.
But finally,
Namaste Acharya ji. It's a privilege to meet you. I am Nabarun and I am a third year PhD student at the IIT Kanpur. So in my circle, I have come across the other kind of people who are so-called scientific tempered. They want to follow things logically. And whenever I try to bring up your topic or the teachings that you give to them, they are automatically drawn away from it because you come from a place of teaching the concepts of the Gita or the Vedanta. So how do I converse regarding these philosophies with them without bringing these texts, and how do I gradually introduce them to these texts?
if there are people who are very stiffly set against the religious texts, then the religious texts do not say that it is mandatory to quote their name. Anything that you want to say, if you talk of Gita or Vedanta as you just did, anything that you want to say can be said without using any of the specific terminologies of Vedanta or Gita. Even without using their specific terms and the jargon, you can still communicate what you have to. I don't think today in this conversation we have been speaking for more than an hour now. For more than an hour now, I don't think I have used any Vedanta specific term till now. And yet I have just, what I have delivered to you is the essence of Upanishads and the Bhagavad Gita. You don't need to say that this is coming from the Gita. Because the Gita is not just one particular book. Broadly speaking, Gita is a commitment towards the truth. Such a deep commitment that you are prepared to fight your own kith and kin and lay down your life without worrying for the result. That's what the Gita is. The Gita is not the names of the various chapters. The Gita is not the various verses memorized. The Gita actually is an intense commitment towards the truth and nothing but the truth. Right? So there are people who don't want to listen to the Gita or to Vedanta. You don't need to quote the Gita or Vedanta to them. You can speak to them in very, very general terms, and yet say the same thing. And that's the great characteristic of truth. It does not depend on language. You can use any language, any kind of terms, any phraseology, You can use very colorful idioms and diverse metaphors and deliver it as per the need of the hour and the situation. Right? If I speak, for example, to a Western audience, right, and I have to bring something from, let's say, the Sant tradition, I'll not necessarily bring in the original verse in Awadhi or the Braj Bhasha. I may quote it as an academic reference, yes. But when I'm speaking to Westerners, I'll speak to them in a way that they can relate to. Right? So it's fine. They say they are logical people. Real philosophy is the epitome of logic. Real philosophy is so logical, it questions logic itself. Real philosophy is so truthful that it questions all the established truths.
Yeah.
But you must also appreciate, by the way, where their indifference or resistance comes from. Your friends, that is. What they have always seen is religion based on belief. They have never probably had the experience of seeing religion based on philosophy.
Yeah.
Therefore, in their mind, religion, belief, regressiveness, and superstition have all become synonymous. And that's why they shirk away the moment they hear a religious term. You must understand that.
Yeah, I was one of them previously.
Yes, and they have a point. They are right. Because a lot of superstition has been peddled in the name of Bhagavad Gita as well. People use Bhagavad Gita to support very hollow theories of personal reincarnation or even caste discrimination.
Yes.
So when the Bhagavad Gita is mischievously associated with very regressive things, the result will be that a lot of sharp people, intellectual people, honest people will shrink away from the Bhagavad Gita. The fact of the matter is that the Bhagavad Gita is one of the strongest statements against caste discrimination and laughs at the very concept of the personal soul.
Yes.
Yes, but that is never brought out.
It is quoted out of context.
It is quoted out of context and it is misinterpreted in the most blatant fashion possible. You look at the Sanskrit and then you look at the interpretation and you'll be horrified. Such deep disrespect to the scripture. What is the author saying? And what kind of brazen mischief you are playing on the author? And the words are very clear in Sanskrit. And you look at them translated to Hindi or to English and then you'll be flabbergasted. But then most people don't even bother to look at the Sanskrit. They don't even care to look at the word by word translation. They just look at the commentary. In fact, they don't even look at the commentary. They rely on the beliefs floating around. They keep the Bhagavad Gita at some holy place in the house, the little house temple, in-house temple, and they worship it daily without ever caring to really read it. And therefore, the great Indian philosophies get associated with bigotry and dogma. The fact is, these are beautiful philosophies, and they are unique because they look inward. Sankhya, Vedanta, even Nyaya and Vaisheshik are commendable in their effort to very logically look at the external universe. The Buddhist philosophy, the sheer details of Jain philosophy, they are also enriching, right? But then they get associated with creed, with faith, with bias and very partisan behavior. And they are possessed by, monopolized by a small group of people who say, we own these books and we will be the interpreters. No, nobody has a monopoly over the great books or the great philosophies. Go to them directly. The thinkers, philosophers, sages were speaking directly to you. As an educated person, it is your responsibility and behoves your dignity to approach those texts directly. Just as you would read a Western philosopher on your own, won't you? Won't you pick up a book by Sartre or Kant or Voltaire and go into it yourself? Won't you?
Yeah.
So similarly, you can pick up a book by Indian philosophers. And all the sages were first and foremost philosophers.
Yeah.
So you can pick a book and go into it. Ashtavakra is a great philosopher, so is Dattatreya. So are Kapil and Kanad and even Patanjali. You go to them and read. And there is no dogma there. There is such intense questioning. I mean, you would sit up if you are lying down.
But the first barrier to these, the entry to these books is Sanskrit, which many people don't understand. And then it becomes difficult to choose an interpretation which actually is unbiased and tries to bring about the real essence.
See, in general, if you look at the interpretations given by scholars, they are likely to be more accurate than those given by organized religious groups or cults. And to be doubly sure, you need not go by any one interpretation. Keep 2 or 3 interpretations with you. That's fine. That's fine. And Indian philosophy is not a hidden thing. Great scholars from India and abroad alike have interpreted and commented. Right? So you can look at those things, and I'll assure you, if you just look at the word by word translation, in 80 to 90% cases, that would suffice.
Okay.
As a PhD student, you and your mates, you are very capable of picking up the threads and connecting the dots and very clearly arriving at the meaning of what is being said. I'm asking you, were the texts written to confuse you?
No.
They were written to clarify things. Therefore, the Sanskrit there is actually quite simple. Mostly it is what is called as Sarala Sanskrit. So there cannot be usually a great cause for confusion. You look at the verse, the shlok, and the meaning will just present itself to you, provided you are not already biased. However, the meaning can deepen upon iteration. You go to the same verse again and you will find a deeper layer. That does not mean that the previous meaning was false. That simply means that now you have come to a deeper level, what you can call as a higher truth, colloquially. Right? So Sanskrit is not that big a problem. Those who gave us those philosophies in the books, they were very careful. They knew the pitfalls. So they assured in advance that the language is kept very simple and the truths are presented as aphorisms. Right? Not as essays. Why? Because when there is such a long piece of text in front of you, you take the liberty of going astray.
Yes.
But when it is a sutra, an aphorism, then you cannot deviate too much this or that way. Yeah. So you won't go wrong. And if you think you are going wrong, then consult a few genuine scholars, reputed not for their religiousness, but for their commitment to the truth. In an ideal situation, these two should mean the same thing. But in the real world, religiousness often means a very shallow commitment to the truth. So avoid books coming from the religious side in general. I'm not saying that you should never touch them. You can consult them, but with a little bit of skepticism.
Yeah. Like Acharya ji, I deeply respect you, but would you name some scholars to whom you would have looked up to when you were getting acquainted with these texts? I mean, if it's possible.
I have looked up to many of them. In fact, it would be easier for me to give you a list of the of those I rejected at the first glance and said I won't want to read their interpretations. Otherwise, I was very open and very liberal, and I would look at anything said by anybody. It widened my perspective.
Yeah.
But finally, it was about widening my perspective, not about committing myself to a particular stream of interpretation or to a cult.
Okay, yes. Yes.
I want to understand what is being said here. Therefore, I am referring to this or that. Not because I want to align myself with this or that or that. So you can consult a lot of sources, but ultimately the light must be your own.
Thank you, Acharya.
Yeah, welcome.
Namaste, everybody. My name is Vinuta. I'm from Bengaluru, Karnataka, and I am a classical music trainer as of now, and I teach music. And that has been my learning and passion since my childhood. And I think Acharya ji has clarified that through his teachings, that if you follow something, that you pursue and are indulged with your heart, that gives a lot of happiness and peace. So it has been a great journey since then. His teachings have got me a lot of clarity. Like, they have crushed all the beliefs that I had namelessly. Like, I didn't know why they existed. So he has challenged them like somebody who is crushing the stone, and then everything is gone. And it has been 3 years that I've been listening to Acharya ji, and it has been 2.5 years since I've joined his Gita sessions. And Gita sessions, though a lot of people have been listening to him through YouTube, but if you are coming and listening to him through his live sessions, that has a very, very different impact. I would suggest you all take that seriously and please join Gita community. We have a specific app for that, and that can be very, very helpful to guide you in your learning, in a very detailed and structured manner. So please enroll today and get the right teachings from Acharya ji. Thank you.